Hello everyone, I'm Nini FC and this is Blue Lines TV, and today I'm bringing you guys a completely different type of video. Now, I will be bringing a 3-part mini-series that will be concluding this Friday, and I'm going to be detailing why everything in Antonio Conte's second year at the club has been going into turmoil, and it's going to be broken into 3 parts. Number 1, I'm going to be talking about Antonio Conte's tactics and breaking that down. In the second part coming out tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about transfer dealings and Antonio Conte's relationship with the boards. And in the final video, I'm going to be breaking down his training sessions, what they actually are, what actually happens behind the scenes, what he prefers, and why this really affects the team. Now, a lot of work and effort has gone into making this video, so I hope you guys watch to the end. And also, I want to say shout out to the editor, Harrison Edits. Please, if you guys follow him on Twitter, it's in the link in the description below. He's really helped this channel come to life. Now, starting with the video, the main issue that the team do face this season is that our system is too predictable and we have been found out. Now, you guys have to think about the Watford game and the Bournemouth game. If Bournemouth and Watford, 2 mid-table teams that haven't been doing that amazing this season, feel much more confident and comfortable pressing high, closing us in our own half, that really lets you know that a lot of teams have really found out how to play against Chelsea and what the best setup is to play against us. And this is why we've really been struggling in this past few months. We're not scoring enough goals, we're not creating enough opportunities, plus we're starting to leak goals more frequently. The Watford game was the final straw in my personal opinion. They've had a much worse season compared to the season that we've had. Now, why have we been found out tactically so quickly? Now, there's a few factors for that. The first thing you need to think about is that teams in the Premier League in general are much better than they've ever been. The average team in the Premier League is much better and stronger than they've ever been. And of course, that's down to the Sky money and the influx of foreign investors that have come into the league to really help with the investment of clubs. On top of that, the average team has a much better standard of manager who's much more tactically flexible and aware, and due to the money a lot of these teams have, this means that solutions and game plans to deal with opposition teams are found out much quicker. So you have to be very flexible, you have to have different types of systems to make it harder for opposition teams to find you out. Now, in the final part of this series, I'm going to be discussing Conte's training methods, why this really affects the team, and I'm going to be breaking down and going into a lot of detail. But to keep things brief, Conte's approach to his system is very textbook, and he focuses a lot on plays and positional awareness. And that's really affected the team so far this season, especially when it comes to playing out from the back. Now, a lot of you guys might be thinking, but Nini, during last season, during that 13-game unbeaten run, why were we so comfortable? Why were we dominating teams? That was because a new system was introduced that clubs didn't really get used to. It was really the main introduction of a consistent back 3 system that was used in the Premier League. Other managers have tried to use that, such as Harry Redknapp for example, but nothing to this effect. Our wing-backs were able to move up the flanks much more freely. Teams aren't really aware of the plays that we use to try and break down teams when it comes to our attacking transitions. Plus, teams weren't pressing very high as well, focusing more on defending deep and using low blocks. But things are completely different this season. Now, there's an argument that if Conte had better players, it would make the system better. In theory, you would be correct, but due to the structure and system and how deep-rooted things are in the training sessions, it's much more difficult and more complicated than that. Now, you guys keep hearing me talk about plays all the time, but why does Conte use them? Well, due to having some technically limited players in the first team, by introducing plays into the system, it reduces the amount of time that these players need to think in order to react to certain situations during a game. They don't have to waste time thinking about what they need to do with the ball. Now, with top players, they don't necessarily need to focus on this style of play because if you give them the ball in any situation, they're good enough to improvise and do things on their own. With limited players, they prefer to have play systems set because then it does reduce the amount of time, and it does pass on that type of responsibility in terms of what their job entails. For example, if you know that, well, I need to kick the ball from deep and I'm receiving it wide down the flanks, you're going to do that knowing that, well, I don't care, the manager said I have to do that, it's up to the other guy to do his job, it's not my problem. And that can be one of the deep-rooted issues by having this style of play. For example, compare clips of Marcus Alonso and then Alexandro. With good players, they don't need to be told what to do when A or B happens. So yes, I do sympathise with Conte in that regard. You guys have seen my previous videos where I've talked about Conte's praise for players such as Fekir and Di Maria, for example. But I'm going to touch on that point in greater deal in the second part coming out tomorrow. Now, there is one solution to this that could really benefit the team, and that would mean that Conte would really have to change his ideas on how to defend off the ball. We know that at Chelsea, Conte likes to use a lot of mid-block to low-block defensive structures to really circle up the pressure and really press when the ball's coming near the danger zones. But with opposition teams now, they're flooding more men forward and they're closing off the channels on either flank. Now, if Conte did introduce a high pressing system, this could really benefit the team. And this would help combat the fact that we get pressed in our own half too frequently. Now, the consistent thing that we always see opposition teams do when they're pressing Chelsea is use a compact, high press and press the wing-backs out wide. They look to block the passing lanes. The midfield gets man-marked and they get pressed, thus forcing the wing-back to have to play long direct balls out to the front three. Now really what needs to happen in this system is that the ball needs to be switched from the right hand side, for example, to the left hand side, because teams use that narrow compact press on either flank. That stretches their press as they then need to run to the other side to try and close the ball down. Now, there are solutions in this squad to help us deal with that, but the reason why those solutions aren't looked into is due to Conte's philosophy. And Conte's philosophy is on defensive rigid structures. He likes players with strength, work rate, tactical awareness, and he favours that physicality more than he does the technically accomplished player that can beat an opposition press. It's his philosophy on work rate and physicality that's a hindrance to the team. An example is in regards to Gary Cahill and Bakayoko. They're two players not accomplished at beating an opposition press and keeping composure on the ball when being closed in, and they're more susceptible to losing the ball and giving away possession. Now, how does that really help the defensive structure of the team? Now, I'm talking about the solutions we already possess, and there's one guy in particular, and that guy is Cesc Fabregas. Now, if you guys watched my tactical breakdown of the Bournemouth game that I thought really summarised our whole season and all of the issues we face under Conte's current system, you would have seen this one point in the video where Kante was receiving the ball, he was running with it, and Cesc Fabregas called for the ball twice, and Kante missed it, meaning that the run that Eden Hazard had made had been closed off, and an attacking move, a chance on goal, was stopped. The argument that Cesc Fabregas is a defensive liability in the middle, that doesn't make any sense due to the positioning and the structure of how Conte sets out the team. As I said, in the third part of this series, I'm going to break it down into incredible details, so you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Really, the only issue why I think Conte doesn't use Fabregas as much is that he doesn't think he wins all of his 50-50 tackles. Now, there's a difference between losing out on a 50-50 tackle and not being defensively aware. If you were to compare Bakayoko and Fabregas, it's light and day difference. Bakayoko is constantly out of position and he's not helping out his teammates because he isn't used to what Conte wants from him just yet. With Cesc Fabregas on the ball, he helps beat the opposition press, which is vital because we need that guy, that outlet, that can switch play to the opposite flank and help relieve pressure. Cesc Fabregas drops deep to call for the ball, he's comfortable receiving the ball under pressure, he's got the passing range to play out from deep areas, plus he can set up counter-attacks with his passing range as well. Now, bringing it back to the earlier point I was making, and I was saying that a high press would suit this team much more. And the reason why a high press would suit the players much more is the fact that it would reduce the amount of time the limited players would have to rely on using their technique to play out from opposition presses or being closed in. You know, taking the front foot, trying to close teams down, the exact same approach we've been seeing from Watford and Bournemouth recently. And I think if you've got players such as Kante, Bakayoko, Luiz, Fabregas, Christensen, I think you're good enough to be able to adopt that style. But really, as I've been stating, it's going to come down to Conte really being flexible with his ideas and philosophy on football and really trying to adapt things instead of trying to force the team to do the same thing over and over again. To conclude the first part of the series, we've seen managers such as Conte make the same mistakes time and time again. And that's the fact that they're not fully flexible, and it's almost as if it's an ego thing. It's an ego thing in the terms that they don't want to accept that their system isn't necessarily as strong or bulletproof as they originally think it is. It's obviously down to the individual players not performing their jobs properly, when really it's the system that's making it much harder for players to perform the jobs they want to do. In tandem with the manager's reliance on physicality, defensive positioning, work rate over technical ability, skill, and obviously aggressive play, the current system has become a bottleneck for the squad, and this is why the results aren't coming in. Anyway, you guys, I hope you enjoyed part 1 of this video. Expect part 2 to come out same time tomorrow. I'm going to be talking about transfer activity and Antonio Conte's relationship with the board, so definitely stay tuned for that. Anyway, you guys, thank you for watching today's video. Please like, comment and subscribe. Get me 500 likes for this video if you enjoyed the video. And if you haven't pressed the bell notification button, please press that and stay tuned to all things Blue Lines TV. Anyway, I'm NiniFC. This is Blue Lines TV. Signing out.